What is up, guys? My name is Daniel McKenna, and I am the world's largest jockey. When I'm not jockeying, I'm also the executive producer here at Thrive 15. And today, we have Clay Clark and Terry Powell sitting down to talk about the franchise business model, the pros and the cons. Who is Terry, you might ask? Take a look at this. If you are looking into what kind of business you want to run, Terry is going to give you some information about the franchise model, both the pros and the cons of why you might want to consider it. Determining what business model you even start with is going to play a huge role in determining whether you can get to where you want to go. Is franchising right for you? Maybe. Check this out. We're going to give you some good information. As you probably know by now, here at Thrive, we believe that knowledge without application is meaningless. Meaning, if you don't actually watch this and learn something and then apply what you learned to your life or your business, watching this lesson is going to be more meaningless than the instructions to the shake weight. I'm not going to demonstrate.
Terry, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, Clay.
Hey, well, today we're going to be talking about the franchise business model, and we're going to be talking a lot about the pros and the cons of the franchise business model. So people who are watching this who are maybe considering buying a franchise, they can learn a little bit more about this. But before we deep dive into it too far, I wanted to give the folks at home a little bit of background into your career. Can you kind of explain to us maybe how long you've been in the franchise industry and in what capacity over the years?
Great, yeah, I'd love to. Just celebrated our 30th year in business this year, and started out in the franchise world in the idea of developing coaching processes with a brand called the Entrepreneur Source. And today we work with about 5,000 to 6,000 individuals.
30 years you've been
30 years, yeah. I was, I think, 12 when I started.
Oh, awesome, yeah. So now, when you see people that, come into the world of franchising, a lot of times they're new to some of these words, and one of them would be a business model. Mm-hmm. A lot of them say, well, I'm looking for the right business model. Can you kind of explain in layman's terms what you think what the word business model means?
Yeah, from a layman's term standpoint, I kind of look at it as the picture on the paint by numbers kit. The model is really putting together all the elements of a turnkey so that someone can just operate that. And so you're modeling what's the best outcome, what's the best customer experience, what's the best practices associated with that business.
Well, the good folks at Investopedia, these guys wrote this definition. They said it's a plan implemented by a company to generate revenue and make a profit from operations, like you said. The model includes the components and functions of the business, as well as the revenues it generates and expenses it occurs. Now, Terry, I've met a ton of people over the years that have decided to hop into this world of self-employment, or at least they think they want to. They want to become self-sufficient. They want to become self-employed, and it's a little bit scary for people. But I wanted to get your take on this a little bit. Microsoft, which is one of the most successful companies we know of, this year, in July of 2014, they announced they're going to lay off 18,000 employees. And then Hewlett Packard, on May 23rd, they demonstrated they're going to lay off 11,000 to 16,000 employees. And I think a lot of people watching this are going, I think I want to start a business, but I don't want to leave the security of my corporate job. Do you buy that whole idea that having a corporate job equals security? Do you buy that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on your point of perspective on it, but I don't buy that. Haven't for many years. One of the reasons we launched the company was to help people become self-sufficient and go from employment to empowerment. But the statistics you just quoted and many others from what we call the new normal today, how they've kind of reallocated the way businesses and companies treat employees, really has brought us to what we call the battered career syndrome. So yes, employment is still an option for many people. It's always going to be an option for many people. But the culture within most employment relationships has shifted dramatically. So you can't just build a career and stay the track and retire like you once did. You might have 6 or 7 different distinctly unrelated career paths that you need to focus on over your career.
That's wild. 6 to 8 different career paths. And I think if you're watching this, so you've thought about starting a franchise, you've thought about buying one. We know what a business model is, and we're saying maybe the franchise business model is for me, maybe it's not. And so we're going to go ahead and hop into the pros and cons of owning a franchise. And so I'm going to read off pro number 1. It's less risky than starting an independent business on your own. Terry, why is it less risky to buy a franchise than to start an independent business?
Well, there are a number of factors that come into play, but just going back to the idea of the term, the model, the fact that the franchise is already perfected and created a model that you're just going to have a turnkey to work from. An independent business, you're going to have to start from scratch and develop the learning curves to put that model in place over a number of years. So that in itself means it's a slower, longer track.
I went in the other day to get my hair cut at Sports Clips. I go in there and I walk in. I was absolutely amazed to see all of there's a print piece. Well, someone had to make that print piece announcing their special. Somebody asks me if I want the MVP. Somebody else asks me if I want this kind of haircut or this kind of service. And the decor, I'm sitting on like bleacher seats and the build out. I mean, someone had to think of all those things.
Absolutely.
And so when you buy a franchise, I mean, it seems like there's just a ton of systems you're buying. I mean, is that the big pro?
Absolutely.